Well, it was wet all fall. I was in the process of climbing up my tree the 26th of October. It's about 2/3 of the way up a big oak tree, and I slipped and lost my balance. Came crashing down on the back of my neck. I broke a couple vertebrae and a rib. Ended up spending 4 days in a Manistee hospital. Thought that was it for my hunting season for the rest of the year, but with the use of this brace, after a couple weeks, I was fortunate to get up and around and start walking again. Got out gun hunting a few times.
And you got
fortunately.
this bug.
Yeah. Well, I hunted this area a few times before, only seen a few deer.
This buck of Kelly Kyers from Holland is another wildlife oddity, a buck in advanced stages of velvet. It wasn't in the rut or even interested in breeding due to a hormonal imbalance. One antler is 17 inches long, a single spike. The other antler has an unusual 3 points, all covered with soft velvet that have turned to small hairs like a fuzzy caterpillar. This type of rack is rarely seen, and Kelly's circumstance was also unique, to say the least.
And you were there in your back brace.
Yeah.
This can't be all that comfortable, is it?
No, I got to hold my gun a little bit different than I usually do, but I did a little bit of practicing the last day before gun hunting season, you know. I didn't want to.
Now, what did your doctor tell you about this? Did he say, hey, go ahead and go out hunting and shooting?
Well, I didn't really ask him too much about it.
You just wanted to
Yeah.
get out there.
Yeah. He said, do what I can do, and
So you
I got out there.
You broke or cracked a couple vertebrae?
2 vertebrae and a rib, yeah.
Boy, that was with a fall like that from a tree, a lot of people will end up paralyzed.
I was very thankful. Very thankful.
Before we launch into the biggest bucks, let's hear from Roger Tanis from Zeeland, who took this 9-pointer with a 23-inch spread with a handgun.
My son and daughter-in-law and I were riding home. We were on our way home for lunch, and we seen this guy running across the big open field. So we went around the block, and we thought, well, he might come through here, and he did, and I got lucky.
I'll be darned. What, you jumped out of your truck?
We got out of the truck, and we got on a couple of runways I knew about there, and we just waited him out, and he come through about 50 yards.
Wow.
So,
Now, didn't your son and daughter have
oh, they were
guns?
there too, but didn't come down their runway.
Oh, so you lucked out on
Yeah.
that one. Have you ever seen a buck this big?
Never.
I mean, this is
Never.
This is really a monster.
An Allegan County buck for Roger Tanis. Now, let's look at some bucks that scored over 40. This one, 18 points with a 22.5-inch spread. That's 40.5 for Bob Simpson from Ann Arbor, a buck with big brow points.
You say your first time in the UP?
First time in the UP. Didn't even know the land.
Were you hunting with a hunting party, a group?
Yeah, a partner of mine, Jeff Lukemeyer, had scouted the land earlier in the year, and he said that there was something huge up there. I didn't believe him.
Did
you know?
Was it this one?
Yeah.
I mean, did he know?
Definitely. He didn't know if he was this big. He saw some big trees knocked down, big scrapes.
Oh, that's what he was going by the sign.
Yep, going by the signs.
So he was probably pretty happy after he did all the scouting to have you get this buck, huh?
He was happy. He had gotten his biggest one Saturday down in Indiana.
Really? In Indiana?
In Indiana.
How does the Indiana buck compare to this?
His didn't really, but for the biggest buck of your life is your biggest buck of your
I
life.
guess. Well, this is going to be something that you're going to have trouble matching. What was the story on it? This is opening morning, 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock in the morning. We had done some sitting. We thought we'd move together and do some still hunting.
Mm-hmm.
So we went across the little ravine, a little creek, and we were going to split up. And he walked about 15 steps one way, and I was going 15 steps the other way. And looked down the edge of a wooded lot in an open field, and there he stood. And I had a stand of brush in front of me so he couldn't see me. Took my glove off, counted 110 horns at least, and dropped it to his shoulder. Let it go.
And your buddy was walking 30-some feet over?
Yeah, he turned just to see me pull the gun up. And then he wondered what I was doing. And I told him it was at least an 8 or 10 point.
Oh, so you're talking back and forth.
After I'd shot. Oh, sure.
Oh, after you'd shot.
I didn't waste any time.
Oh, well, that's
This
good.
is my first buck.
No kidding. Had you hunted southern Michigan before? Or
Many
hunted-
times, many times. I've been hunting for 12 years.
Oh, no kidding. Well, you
Yeah.
deserve this one, if anybody did. Where are you going to go next year? Get one of these southern Michigan big bucks?
Not a chance. I'm going back up to the UP.
Same spot, huh?
Same spot.
That's terrific. What a story. What a rack. Congratulations.
Thank
After 12 years. And then got a big one.
Bob Simpson's opening day buck dressed out at over 200 pounds on the fence between a score of 41 and 42 is this buck taken by Tim Jagalski from Waldron. 21 points for sure, a tough call on a 22nd, but Tim has an exciting story.
All I seen was this side of the wreck here. I didn't see nothing else of the whole deer.
You saw this side. Did you count the points?
No. I looked at it and I looked twice, and I almost kept walking because I was stalking with a couple buddies of mine, and because he was bedded down, and it was in pick ground, and he was in fence row, and I almost walked right by. I said, "Well, I better go check it out," because I was about 120 yards away. So I started walking toward him. I got about 80 yards from him. He turned his head a little bit, and then he twisted, and I knew it was a buck. Then.
Ooh. Then what did you do? He didn't see you at that point?
No. So I tried stalking him some more. I got about 85 yards, and he popped his head up. And I beat it down on him. I shot him right in front of the ear.
Oh, right up there.
Yeah.
That isn't where you're aiming, was it?
I was aiming for the head.
Were you really? Oh, you saw this kind of antlers, and you took a shot that close to the head?
I wanted to make sure he wasn't getting away.
Whoa.
Obviously, Tim is a good shot and holds up under pressure. Most hunters would be shaking like a willow leaf just to see a buck like this in the woods. But we're down to our second largest buck that we could locate so far this year. A familiar face to big buck night, 19-year-old Bob Bowen from Holt had a record book rack here 2 years ago. This year, it's a 22-pointer with a 20-inch spread scoring 42, and he says he almost had a monster last year.
What's the key to it? I mean, there's got to be a lot of other fellows hunting down around where you hunt that don't pull out bucks like this year after year.
Yeah, you're probably right. But
Why is it that you do?
I'm lucky, I guess.
Really think so? Do you hunt harder? Do you hunt more? Do you get out earlier?
Yeah, I get out real early. That's why I think I get out before the deer do, and then they come in the ear. I watched him for 6 hours. He bedded down in the field about 70 yards away, and he got up twice to stretch his legs. And finally, 12:30, I stalked up to about 20 yards from him, and he didn't know what hit him.
Whoa. I don't know if I could watch a buck like that for 6 hours. How far away was he?
20 yards when I shot.
But what about that time you had to watch him for 6 hours?
70. I was tempted to squeeze off a couple rounds.
I guess it's lucky that nobody else came up to you and said, "Hey, Bob, how you doing today?"
Yeah, I was happy.
Well, that's something. What time did you get out in the morning?
I was out about 20 after 5.
Man. And you and that buck sat there until noon, until you finally got him. That is one heck of a story. Bob, you're an inspiration.
Thank you.
I gotta get out earlier, I guess.
Bob Bowen has good advice for any hunter and the track record to back it up. But you know, the fellow who took the biggest rack of big buck night finds that his best success is at noontime. This is the rack that so far sweeps our big buck night for points plus spread. 21 points with a 23-inch spread. These antlers boast a grand total of 44. The lucky hunter's name is Fred Hood from Ottawa Lake, and Fred actually took 2 huge trophy bucks from a prime piece of land down in Lenawee County.
Opening morning, still pretty dark at 7 o'clock. My watch just beeped 7 o'clock. I was just sitting there admiring the creation and being thankful for the opportunity to be out in the woods and looking around at the birds and really enjoying myself. And I caught a little motion over my left shoulder, and he was coming from the direction I thought he would be coming from.
Why did you think he would be coming from there?
It was a fence row, north-south fence row, and had some pine trees along, and he had probably 10 or 12 pine trees rubbed up. And about a quarter mile behind me, there was a big scrape. I mean, a big scrape.
A big one.
A big scrape. Broken branches above, just textbook scrape. And I knew he'd either be coming out of the woods to the scrape or from the scrape to the woods.
And you were in between.
I was in between.
Of course, let's talk about your track record. Last year, same blind.
Same blind, 9-point, opening day, 1:30 in the afternoon.
That was
Run right out across the open winter wheat field, right to me. Shot him at 20 yards.
And this one?
44 yards. I stepped it off. Came down the fence row, stepped out into the winter wheat field, and I shot him, ran about 70 yards.
Now, Fred Jr., here to make the third Fred on the set, is holding this rack, and he didn't get that, did he?
No, that's my buck from Thursday, 2 days after opening, 1:30 in the afternoon. I was sitting in a fence row.
Well, that's your time around noon.
Yeah, I love it. All these guys that go to lunch at noon and out to the bank and haul their deer in and making all kind of ruckus. You want to be sitting quiet, nice and quiet about noon.
Boy, this guy knows. Well, congratulations, Fred. You got quite a record from
Thank
this
you.
season.
Isn't that a thrill to just see a big rack that size? Thrilling to me, too, to know that a guy named Fred can get the biggest buck of Big Buck Night. Didn't happen to be me. You know, really, when you talk about big racks and trophies, most hunters don't intend to get a trophy. I know myself, I'm probably typical of most hunters. Most hunters don't get a deer in an average year, and when they do, it's a smaller deer, but they hunt for meat. And that's what hunting and fishing on Michigan Outdoors is all about. We hunt and fish for food. The Big Buck Night, well, it's for fun. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed seeing those humongous racks, but keep it all in perspective. Hunting and fishing is for food, and that's the way we enjoy it on Michigan Outdoors. Hope you enjoyed Big Buck Night, and we'll see you every week right here on PBS. Michigan Outdoors was brought to you statewide by the Flint Metro Chevy Value Leaders: Al Serra, Frank McNally, Applegate, Vic Canover, Hank Graff, Sims, Summerfield, the new force in town, driving car and truck prices down.
Major funding for this program is provided by STRO. By sharing the responsibility to preserve our natural treasures, together we ensure our right to enjoy them. STRO, partners in preserving America's outdoor heritage.